Good morning, everyone. Good morning. The time for convening has arrived. Senate will come to order. All unauthorized visitors, please exit the chamber at this time. I recognize the Senator from 6. Senator from 6, we probably need a few more senators in here if we're going to conduct a full day.
Mr. President, it's a good thing you and I are here on time. Otherwise, this place just wouldn't run, would it? I'm sure our colleagues are coming along. They're meeting, fixing the world's problems. Mr. President, the pages are on time. Present and accounted for. We got some good ones today. We got Alyssa Calvin from Monroe. We have Jason Lynn from Auburn. We have Ava Nord from Williamson. We have Mason Ringsrud from Kennesaw. Preston Solling from Kennesaw. Braxton Slaughter from Flowery Branch. Ayana Tejani from Lawrenceville. And Stella Warren from Monroe. Y'all give our pages a big round of applause. We appreciate you being here, helping us serve the great people of the great state of Georgia. Mr. President, the journal has been read and found to be correct, so I move we dispense with the reading of the journal. And there's nobody here to object.
All right. Thank you, Senator, and we once again appreciate all the pages back there. Got a good-looking bunch, and appreciate them being here. Is there objection to dispensing of the reading of the journal? The chair hears none. The reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there objection to confirmation of the journal? Chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. All senators who have bills and resolutions to introduce, please bring them to the Secretary's desk at this time. First reading references the Senate bills and resolutions. Mr. Secretary.
Senate Bill 495 by Senators Harrell of the 40th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 10 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated
Children and Family.
Senate Bill 496 by Senators Brass of the 6th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 36 of
State
Title
and local government, general.
Senate Bill 497 by Senators Dixon of the 45th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 16 of Chapter 2 of Title 20.
Education and Youth.
Senate Bill 498 by Senators Dixon of the 45th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 3(1)(b) of Chapter 2 of Title 20. Senate Bill 499 by Senators Ginn of the 47th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 4 of Chapter 11 of Title 16 of the Official
Judiciary.
Code. Senate Resolution 758 by Senators Williams of the 25th and others. A resolution honoring the lives of correctional officers Christopher Monica and Curtis Billiou and dedicating a road. Mr. President, that completes the order.
First reading references the House bills.
House Bill 57 by Representatives Cameron of the 1st and others. A bill to be entitled to amend Code Section 16-6. House Bill 383 by Representatives Cox of the 28th and others. A bill to be entitled to amend Titles 20 and 39.
Interstate cooperations.
House Bill 903 by Senators Powell of the 33rd and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend. House Bill 907 by Representative Jones of the 47th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 31C.
Education and Youth.
House Bill 986 by Representative Jones of the 25th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 2.
Science and Technology.
House Resolution 251 by Representatives New of the 40th and others. A resolution proposing
Judiciary.
Mr. President, that completes the order.
Secretary Reed reports of standing committees.
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Finance has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 432, due pass by substitute. Senate Bill 446, due pass. Senate Resolution 668, due pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Huff-Settler of the 52nd District, Chairman. Dear Mr. Secretary, pursuant to Rule 2-1.6, I hereby give notice that I will introduce a minority report to be read along with the majority report of Senate Bill 446, which passed out of the Senate Committee on Finance on February 11th, 2026. Sincerely, Senator Orrock of the 36th District. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Government Oversight has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. House Bill 485, due pass by substitute. House Bill 377, due pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Bearden of the 30th District, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 440, do pass. Senate Bill 462, do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Watson of the 1st District, Chairman. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Secretary read bills and resolutions for a second time.
Senate Bill 156 by Senator Williams of the 25th and others. Retirement. Certain members or former members of the General Assembly to buy into the Georgia Legislative Retirement System. Provide. Senate Bill 369 by Senator Still of the 48th and others. Charter Schools Act of 1998. Completion charter schools. Provide. Senate Bill 452 by Senator Hatchett of the 50th and others. Retirement and pension. Maximum employer contribution to a 401k for certain law enforcement officers. Increase. Senate Bill 471 by Senator Dolezal of the 27th and others. Education. Requires a student to wear a face mask or face covering while present on school property. Eliminate automatic repeal provision. Mr. President, that completes the order.
It is now time for the morning roll call. Are there any motions to excuse? Motions to excuse. Recognize Senator from the 22nd.
Ask for unanimous consent, Mr. President, to excuse the senator from the 44th and the 33rd for business inside the Capitol.
44th and 33rd?
Yes, that's correct, Mr. President.
Without objection, senators are excused. Recognize Senator from the 29th.
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the esteemed senator from the 27th.
Without objection, Senator from the 27th is excused. Recognize Senator from the 38th.
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 7th for business inside the Capitol.
Without objection, Senator from the 7th is excused. Senator from the 17th, do you have somebody? Senator from the 40th.
Yes, Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 5th.
From the 5th? Without objection, the senator from the 5th is excused. Recognize Senator from the 17th.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 26th.
Without objection, the senator from the 26th is excused. Recognize the senator from the 52nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 49th.
Without objection, the senator from the 49th is excused. Any other motions to excuse? Secretary will call the roll. Senators, signify your presence by voting the yay switch. Secretary. It is now time for our morning devotion. All senators, please take your seats and cease all conversation. I would ask that the doorkeepers secure the chamber at this time. I'd like to recognize the Dean of the Senate, Senator from the 15th, to lead us in our pledge and introduce our pastor of the day. Senator?
Thank you, Mr. President. Let's pay homage to our flag, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Georgia flag, pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag and the principles for which it stands, wisdom, justice, and moderation and courage. Good morning, colleagues. I'm really glad to be here today to introduce a fine warrior for God, Reverend David Stallion Sr. He was born in Phoenix City, Alabama, and accepted Christ at the age of 10 at Bethlehem Baptist Church. He answered his call to the ministry in 2001, was licensed in 2002, and ordained 2 years later. Reverend Dr. Stallion has served in numerous leadership roles, including youth pastor, assistant pastor, and music director with over 25 years of gospel music and ministry experience. He has earned a Bachelor of Arts in Pastoral Ministry, a Master of Divinity in Discipleship and Church Ministry, and a Doctor of Divinity degree from Frontline Theological Seminary. He also holds certification as Dean of Christian Leadership Schools and serves as a CLS instructor and 4th District President of the GMBC of Georgia Incorporated. He has faithfully served in various community and ministerial leadership roles and currently serves as pastor of Mount Pilgrim Baptist Church in Columbus, Georgia, where he was called in this November of 2015. Reverend Dr. Stallion is married to his wife, Tammy R. Stallion. Let's give her a big round of applause. She's over here. Thank you very much. And he and Ms. Stallion has 3 children and 4 grandchildren. Blessings today from Reverend Dr. Stallion. Let's welcome him.
Well, let me say greetings to all. How good and how pleasant it is for us to gather together in unity. I am excited. I am glad to be here. I don't count it as one that I would take lightly. I am honored to have this privilege and this opportunity to stand before you today. It is one that will be a memory that will forever be etched into my heart and into my mind. I do want to give recognition to the President as well as Senator Harbison and to Minority Leader Hughley for this opportunity to be able to stand as your devotional leader today. She's already been mentioned, but I wouldn't be where I am today without the one who's beside me, my lovely wife, and I thank her for being with us today. James chapter 1, verse 5 says, if any of you lack wisdom, you should ask God, who gives you generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. In this house, you're often asked to solve complex problems with no easy answers. This verse reminds us that wisdom isn't just about intellect. It's a gift available to those who act with a humble heart. In Matthew chapter 20, 26 through 28, Jesus explains that true greatness is found in serving others. And whoever wants to be a leader among you must be your servant. Leadership is a product of the heart. Guarding your heart ensures that you remain faithful to your oath and to the people that you represent. Despite political divisions, the goal is to work for the peace and prosperity of the state. And this requires a spirit of cooperation and a focus on the common good rather than personal ambition. Finally, when it comes to accountability, whatever your religious belief or in the spirit of accountability to the citizens of our state, my faith believes in a higher power that has counted us as stewards and will eventually return to us to give accountability of our stewardship. Luke chapter 12, 42 through 43 says, "And the Lord said, Who then is that faithful and wise steward whom his master will make ruler over his household, to give them their portion of food in due season? He said, Blessed is that servant whom his master will find so doing when he comes." And that is my ambition, that is my goal in life, that even in what I do in ministry, I simply want to be found faithful. And it is my prayer for this, those of you who make up this house, that you will do the same, not only to whoever you're accountable to, but certainly to the citizens of our great state of Georgia. So let us pray. Gracious God, we thank you for the privilege of serving this state. We ask for the wisdom of Solomon to navigate today's decisions and the courage of Esther to stand for what is right. Grant these representatives a deep sense of responsibility and a spirit of goodwill. Help them to listen with open hearts, speak with honesty, and prioritize the needs of the vulnerable, the children, the elderly, and those on the margins. May their work today lead to a more peaceful and just community for all. We ask this in your name. Amen.
All right, colleagues, if I could get your attention just a minute. We're going to have our Doctor of the Day, but I first want to thank Miss Julia Mack that looks after us so good in the back, and she's always helping us out and doesn't want the spotlight, but we appreciate you, Julia, very much. Now to introduce the Doctor of the Day, we have the Senator from the 14th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, it's my honor to introduce you today Dr. Erica Gibson. She's a board-certified OBGYN with the Southeast Permanente Medical Group in Atlanta. She's a native of Chattanooga, Tennessee, graduated from Spelman College with a BA in Spanish, medical degree from UPenn, and OBGYN residency at the Hospital of UPenn. She also received a master's in public health at Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health as a summer scholar, focused on health policy and reproductive health. She is currently the Chief of Women's Services at, I believe it's the Southeast Permanente Medical Group, right? And helped develop the region's Cocoon Pregnancy Care Model, which is an integrative, multidisciplinary prenatal care model that centers the patient experience and improves outcomes. She's also the clinical and digital lead for women's and children's health at the Kaiser Federation, working to develop and implement digital strategies for this population across Kaiser regions nationally. Appointed to the U.S. Preventative Service Task Force. She's also very concerned about the maternal health crisis. And folks, I know I make jokes about how often I come up here to present Doctors of the Day coming from North Fulton County, but it's actually something to think about. The reason I'm up here so frequently is because there are so many doctors in the metro Atlanta area, and we do have an urgent need for OBGYNs and all kinds of doctors all across the state, and that's something that Dr. Gibson has been working on. So without further delay, I will be honored to introduce you to Dr. Erica Gibson.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. My name is Erica Gibson, and I practice obstetrics and gynecology here in Atlanta. Every day I have the privilege of caring for women and families, work that reminds me how important strong, accessible, and high-quality health care is to the well-being of our community, especially vulnerable populations. Thank you for the work that you do on behalf of Georgia's citizens. The decisions here impact lives, and in that we have a shared goal of ensuring that our citizens, my patients, have opportunities to live a healthy and thriving life. I'm happy to be here to support you, so come by and see me. Thanks.
Thank you. Good job. We have special guests with us today that we would like to recognize. The Secretary will read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 695 by Senators Halpern of the 39th and others. A resolution commending the Georgia Aquarium on its 20th anniversary and for other purposes. Whereas Georgia Aquarium opened in 2005 as a philanthropic gift to the city of Atlanta, made possible through the generosity and vision of the late Bernie Marcus, and has since become one of Georgia's most beloved cultural institutions, welcoming millions of guests and inspiring curiosity, stewardship, and a lasting appreciation for the ocean. And whereas Georgia Aquarium stands as one of the state of Georgia's most significant tourist attractions, drawing visitors from around the nation and the world. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body congratulate the Georgia Aquarium on the occasion of its 20th anniversary and commend its enduring leadership in education, animal care, inclusion, and conservation. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. I'd like to call upon the senator from the 39th District for the purpose of introducing our special guest.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, colleagues. It is my profound honor today to recognize the 20th anniversary of the Georgia Aquarium. Since its opening in 2005, which was made possible through the vision and generosity of Bernie Marcus, the aquarium has grown into one of Georgia's most important cultural and educational institutions and one of the strongest anchors for tourism and economic activity in downtown Atlanta. Every year, families, students, and visitors from across our state and around the world walk through their doors. They experience world-class exhibits, immersive galleries, and science-based storytelling that help people understand aquatic life and the responsibility we all share in protecting it. The aquarium also plays a meaningful role in classrooms across Georgia. Its field experiences and outreach programs expand hands-on STEM learning and make science real and accessible for students in every corner of our state, not just here in Metro Atlanta. Behind the scenes, the Georgia Aquarium really is a leader in animal care, rescue, and conservation. Its staff and partners advance research, respond to urgent animal rescues, and apply cutting-edge science to protect threatened species and restore critical habitats, work that expands and reaches far beyond Georgia. Just as importantly, the aquarium has made inclusion and accessibility a core part of its mission. The aquarium's community impact is also deeply human and personal. Through its Veterans Immersion program, now extended to children from Children's Healthcare of Atlanta and patients at Shepherd Center, participants experience therapeutic dives that offer healing, confidence, and connection in truly unforgettable ways. I want to recognize 4 leaders who represent the people behind this work who are with me today: Travis Burke, the President and CEO, Paige Hale, Dan Piazzo, and Elaine Alberts. This anniversary marks more than 20 years of success. It really reflects 20 years of leadership in education, conservation, accessibility, and community partnership. And they are certainly not done yet. So on behalf of the Senate, I'm proud to commend the Georgia Aquarium for its lasting impact on Atlanta and on the people of Georgia, and to congratulate them on 20 years of service to our state. And I invite President and CEO Travis Burke to address us now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Senator. Thank you very much, Senators. And to the representatives, thank you very much. I am Travis Burke, President and CEO of Georgia Aquarium. We are grateful for this recognition of our 20th anniversary and of the impact that we have had with you on the city of Atlanta and the great state of Georgia. Georgia Aquarium is a nonprofit organization, and our mission relies on connecting millions of guests annually, thousands of donors, and by garnering bipartisan support. Our past 2 decades have been filled with remarkable achievements, including bringing the ocean to nearly 45 million guests. By welcoming them through our gates, we have generated tourism dollars and been a key economic driver for the downtown area. Now, this would not have been possible without the generosity and vision of Bernie and to you, our elected officials, so thank you very much. As we look ahead, we remain committed to our core mission of inspiring awareness and preservation of aquatic ecosystems at home, globally, and providing meaningful connections to the ocean for all. We are proud to be a Georgia institution and help bring millions of guests to the great state of Georgia. I want to invite you all to visit Georgia Aquarium and be a part of our next 20 years. Thank you again for this incredible recognition and continued support.
Yeah, we're very, very proud of the Georgia Aquarium and what it means to our state and economic development, tourism, and education. Thank y'all. We're happy to recognize more special guests today. The Secretary will read a resolution.
Senate Resolution 597 by Senators Orrock of the 36th and others. A resolution recognizing and commending Dana Kraft on her outstanding public service as the Executive Director of Feeding Georgia and for other purposes. Whereas she has diligently and conscientiously devoted innumerable hours of her time, talents, and energy toward the betterment of her community and state as evidenced dramatically by her superlative 15 years of service with Feeding Georgia. And whereas Dana has served with honor and distinction, and her vision and unyielding commitment to Feeding Georgia will be sorely missed upon the occasion of her retirement. And now therefore be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize and commend Dana Kraft for her efficient, effective, unselfish, and dedicated public service to the state of Georgia, congratulate her upon the grand occasion of her retirement, and extend the most sincere best wishes for her continued health and happiness. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. I'd like to call on the senator from the 36th district to introduce our special guest, and I would ask you to give her your attention, please, and keep the chamber reasonably quiet.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, it gives me great pleasure today to bring to you this resolution honoring Dana Kraft on the occasion of her retirement. I have known Dana for more than a few years. She is leaving 15 years of heading up Feeding Georgia as the executive director. When I knew her, she was a banker and a constituent in Morningside. She has always brought diligence, dedication, and her heart to whatever work she pursued, whatever task she undertook. But I would say it's accurate to say that Dana found her passion when she moved into the space of Feeding Georgia. And many of you know her without realizing it because she stepped up when we began to change the structure of our Wild Hog Supper. She helped craft it and shape the path that it took. And Feeding Georgia became the entity that worked with the Ag Department, worked with our Agricultural Commissioner to remake the wild hog into what it is today. And it's still crowded, it's still delicious, but it's also doing great good around the state for families that are challenged in meeting their food needs. She did it with a smile. She did it no matter how big the crowds were. Every year there was a new innovation. Every year it worked more and more smoothly. And so I say to you, everybody in this chamber has been directly and indirectly touched by the leadership that she gave this work for so many years. And it could not please me more than to recognize her as she takes her retirement. I'm sure we'll be hearing from her what her next thing that she's engaging with. But the folks that are still at Feeding Georgia and are here with us today, I want to recognize as well, because they have picked up the torch and will continue to move forward in this work of meeting the challenges that families are having in putting food on their table all across our great state. We have the new executive director of Feeding Georgia, Julie Kukenal. We have their manager of corporate partnerships and marketing, Sophia Jackson, Cheyenne Kellogg, and Megan Middleton, who many of us have known for a long time as well, who's the Director of Government Affairs here at the Atlanta Community Food Bank. The Food Bank network spreads across this state and plays a vital role. I'm so happy to present this resolution to Dana Kraft for the pivotal role that she has played, the years of service that she has already dedicated to this laudable mission. Dana, would you come forward, please?
Thank you so much. I am so grateful for this recognition. It's been the privilege of my lifetime to do meaningful work and to do it with great public servants like you, Senator, and with everyone in this chamber and in this building, and the great state employees that administer programs that help the most vulnerable families in our state. So thank you so much. I'm blessed by this and really appreciate the recognition.
Well deserved. Thank you so much.
He'll get a picture with you. This is Governor Jones. Yeah.
I know she's
Forward to
going to
working
make
with
her
you.
face as well.
Thank you.
Are there any unanimous consents? Does any senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? Senator from the 42nd. I think you're it, Senator. We got 1,500 statewide candidates in here, and you're the only one that wants to talk.
Only one. If I go fast, we can move on, right? Two things. First off, on Tuesday, as Judiciary Chair, come with another announcement for you. The Council of Superior Court Judges have a legislative appreciation breakfast. So your Superior Court judges will be here on the second floor in 2:30 on Tuesday morning from 8:30 to 10. Go by and see them. I also rise today to celebrate New Americans Day here at the State Capitol. This is something we celebrate for the past 13 years. Is we recognize our long history of extending a welcome to new Americans from around the world in our state. Today, 11% of Georgians, more than 1.2 million people, are foreign born. They contribute over $15 billion to our federal, state, and local taxes in our state and represent $44 billion in spending power. And today we celebrate our history as a state of welcoming immigrants and a place where Georgia continues to be a place where folks can come through our immigration process and bring their families to the best state in the country for families, to raise a family. And join us in the gallery today. We have students from the Georgia Village Product and also their teacher, Mr. Crispin. Are y'all still up here? Will y'all rise if you are? Well, still want to recognize and appreciate y'all being here at the State Capitol with us today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. I recognize the senator from the 10th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today to talk about a topic that's been near and dear to me for a very long time, and that's a topic surrounded around affordability. You know, there's an article in today's AJC that I just kind of shared with you that was authored by my good friend, former CEO of DeKalb County, Michael Thurman. And it kind of steps through the history of Georgia, but one of the things that I noticed in this particular article is that it said that Georgia was a colony that was planned as an asylum for the unfortunate where England's worthy poor could earn a living exporting products from small farms. Oglethorpe and the trustees sought to resolve socioeconomic problems troubling 18th century British society. Farmland boundaries and industrial age technological advances have left tens of thousands of Britons unemployed and desolate. So when I think about this, this kind of reminds me that Georgia really was the original affordability colony. But when you fast forward to today, you see that Georgia's ranking really has an uphill struggle in many different areas. For 12 consecutive years, Georgia has earned the distinction of the top state to do business. And that distinction has been earned from several area magazines. Georgia has been known as one of the most friendly places in the country to do business. Yet when you look a little bit deeper in the numbers, you see that Georgia ranks 30th out of all 50 states in terms of the cost of living. Wallet Hub ranks Georgia 41st amongst the states to raise a family. Georgia ranks 39th in overall child well-being. We fell 2 spots, by the way, after improving the 7 previous years, which researchers called a troubling reversal. Georgia's maternal mortality rate is among the nation's highest, 37.9 deaths per 100,000 live births, with 87% of deaths deemed preventable. And somebody should hear that message again, 87% of deaths deemed preventable. Most tragically, Georgia's infant mortality rate hovers above the national average of 7.1 per 1,000 live births, with stark disparities based on race and religion. But did you know that Georgia founders envisioned our state as a spearman in both economic development and social welfare reform? So I say to you that as we debate bills today, particularly Senate Bill 476, let me remind you that 476 will create an affordability apocalypse in our state's budget. I'm not going to stand here before you and go through all of the numbers. Let's just say that that particular bill, 476, has sought to repeal low-income tax credits, redefine affordable housing tax credit and cuts values to 50%, repeal agribusiness and rural jobs tax credit, and the list goes on and on and on. So somebody who wants a full list, come and see me. I share it with you. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield this morning.
Recognize Senator from the 34th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I rise to recognize the Georgia Federation of Democratic Women for their long-standing commitment to civil engagement and public service across our state. Through voter education, community outreach, and leadership development, membership continues to strengthen participation through democracy, encouraging Georgians, especially our women, to step to the front and lead. To the officers, local chapters, advocates with us today, thank you for working year-round to support communities, to help ensure that the voices, the pathways are heard. If you're in the gallery, please stand to be recognized, and also want to recognize the local chapter in Fayetteville. Thank you for being here.
Recognize the senator from the 35th.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, everyone. I hope that you keep your eyes open because we have yellow ties and scarves all over the Capitol today. So today is the Georgia Dental Association Day at the Capitol, so y'all give it up to all your favorite dentists. Let's hear it. I'm going to ask at this time for all of our dentists, part of the GDA, please stand up where you are, and senators, it would be wise for you for your next checkup to kind of make a little eye contact and let them know we're friendly, because you may have to be in their chair soon and you want them to be gentle. So y'all give it up for your dentists, please. Thank you. You may be seated. As you know, as dentists, and I mentioned to the group earlier, we have a unique skill of being meticulously careful, and we pay a lot of attention to very small things. But we also understand how that very small thing fits into a very big picture. And in politics, we need more of that. So thank you so much to all of our highly trained, amazing dentists who are here, and our offices and our staff and everybody who's taking great care of us. We try to take care of you. So again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Senator. And we greatly appreciate the Dental Association and everything they do. Appreciate all its members being down here today. They do a good job of representing their industry. Senator from the 50th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rise today on a point of personal privilege to recognize an important organization. But before I do that, I just want to thank my colleagues. Yesterday we had a scare in my family, and it really meant a lot for those that reached out to me on both sides of the aisle. Want to report Hazel's doing much better, and also want to thank you guys for a bill that we passed that allowed all school teachers and nurses to have those badges which they can press in an emergency situation. Yesterday, when it happened, the school nurse was able to hit her button, and within 7 minutes, EMTs were there. So it was a blessing. So just thank y'all for that, and just want to report Hazel's doing much better. But I also rise today to recognize the YMCA. The YMCA is celebrating 175 years. The first YMCA in Georgia was established in 1855 in Savannah. And today, there are 2,600 YMCAs across the country that serve more than 10,000 communities. I'm sure you have one in your neck of the woods, but just want to recognize them on 175 years and welcome them to the chamber if they're here. And with that, Mr. President, I'll yield the well.
Recognize the senator from the 24th.
Mr. President, we have a birthday girl on the floor today. Mr. President, we have a birthday girl on the floor today. Miss Paradise. Miss Paradise, raise your hand. Let's wish Miss Paradise a happy birthday.
Happy birthday. All right. Thank you. She won't tell us how old she is. She's given us the same age the last 5 years, Senator. So, but happy birthday. She does a great job for us. Recognize Senator from 26.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am so excited today because we have our future with us, our young people from Cobb County. We have the Mapleton student body, and that's South Cobb High School and Mapleton High School. So thank you. Please stand. And also we have, I think they already went out from Douglas County, Reach Back. Are you still here? And please stand. And please, senators, give them a warm welcome. This is most of them first time here in the state capitol. We thank you for being here with us today, and I look forward to meeting each and every one of you very soon. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Who we got? You have before you today a consent calendar of privileged resolutions. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution on the consent calendar? Chair hears none. The resolution on the consent calendar are adopted. Recognize senator from the 6th for a motion.
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent that SB 282 be withdrawn from the Committee on Insurance and Labor and be committed to the Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs.
Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 282 by Senator Goodman of the 8th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 2 of Article 15 of Chapter 1 of Title 10 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated the Fair Business Practices Act of 1975, so as to provide requirements for earned wage access services, to provide for fees that may be charged for such services, to provide for prohibitions, to provide for consumer protections, to provide that earned wages access payments are non-recourse, to provide that earned wages access services shall not be considered lending activity or money transmission, to provide for definitions, to provide for applicability, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Is there objection? All those in favor of the motion? There's no objection, and so it's removed. Recognize Majority Leader for a motion.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the following bills be engrossed: SB 476, SB 477, HB 134, and HB 463.
Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 476 by Senator Tillery of the 19th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 33 and Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated, relating to insurance and revenue and taxation, respectively, so as to reduce the personal income tax rate, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date and applicability, to provide for a short title, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Senate Bill 477 by Senator Tillery of the 19th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 7 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated, relating to the imposition, rate, computation, exemptions, and credits relative to income taxes, so as to reduce the personal income tax rate, to revise provisions relative to annual reductions of the income tax, to reduce the rates of taxation on corporate and partnership income, to increase the amount of the standard deduction from state taxable income for individuals, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date and applicability, to repeal for conflicting laws, and for other purposes. House Bill 134 by Representatives Camp of the 135th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated, relating to revenue and taxation, so as to provide for definitions, to revise and expand a sales tax exemption for manufactured homes, to provide for a sunset date, to provide for legislative findings, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. House Bill 463 by Senator Representatives Blackmun of the 146th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 2 of Chapter 5 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated, relating to tax exemptions, so as to provide for a statewide homestead exemption from ad valorem taxes for certain senior citizens who volunteer with local governments, an amount to be determined by such local governments, to provide for definitions, to specify the terms and conditions of the exemption, the procedures relating thereto, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Majority Leader has moved. Is there objection? You want him to have first objection? Okay, we'll let him have it. Would you like to speak to the motion, Majority Leader? Would you like to speak to the objection? Recognize Senator from the 2nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. This morning, colleagues, the Minority Caucus, we do rise in opposition to the engrossment of these 4 pieces of legislation, considering that they were introduced in such a late hour on Friday, the weekend of the Super Bowl, and are such a large impact to how we finance and operate this state. They've moved out of committee in just under an hour, and these pieces of legislation are of great impact to Georgians. And we believe, and I do feel, that there should have been a much larger, more robust debate to allow for public comment and testimony on legislation that will impact every single Georgian from all 159 counties. And now that we have moved them to engrossment, the Minority Caucus is yet again excluded from participating or negotiating in how these bills will impact our state. And I would like to add, Mr. President, we were not at the table to negotiate any of these bills and how they will impact Georgians. And so it is to say that the majority party will decide everything for the state. And so for those of us who represent other constituencies, our constituencies, and what they're going through and what they may experience and what their financial hardships are really don't matter, because you got it figured out. The majority party has it all figured out. And I would just close with this, Mr. President. If affordability is going to be on the table, y'all been in charge for 20 years. Things have gotten a lot more expensive, so maybe you should bring the Minority Caucus to the table so we could work collectively and work together to find a solution that would benefit all Georgians. And so with that, Mr. President, we object to the engrossment of these pieces of legislation, and we do so very proudly this morning. So with that, Mr. President, I yield the well.
Senator has yielded. Recognize Majority Leader. For what purpose you rise?
Mr. President, I want to make a short amendment to my motion that HB 134 and HB 463 not be engrossed in this vote since they're already engrossed.
Now I recognize the majority leader again.
Mr. President, I withdraw my motion to engross.
You withdraw your motion to engross. Is there objection? That objection is granted. Recognize majority leader.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we engross SB 476 and SB 477.
SB 476 and SB 477. Secretary, reread the caption.
Senate Bill 476 by Senator Tillery of the 19th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 33 and Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to insurance and revenue and taxation respectively so as to reduce the personal income tax rate and for other purposes. Senate Bill 477 by Senators Tillery of the 19th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 7 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the imposition, rate, computation, exemptions, and credits relative to income taxes so as to reduce the personal income tax rate and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Just for clarification, so the body knows, the House bills were already engrossed from last year, and they carried over into here. So we were now engrossing just the Senate bills. Noted, we will note the objection from the senator from the second and him speaking for his position. And now we're open for anyone else who'd like to speak for his or her position. I recognize the senators from the 26th.
Thank you, Mr. Governor. 476 changes the credits for affordable housing. Isn't it true that over the last year, I had an older community with an elementary school, and the housing stock was bad? Isn't it also further true that under this housing credit, we are building 65 units of affordable housing in that neighborhood that will affect the children's attendance at L.H. Williams Elementary School in Macon? Engrossing does not give us the opportunity to amend, have a discussion about it, or anything. So, unfortunately, I will have to withdraw my support for this bill.
Senator knows his district the best, knows Bibb County well. Recognize the senator from the 55th.
Mr. President, I too must submit my great disappointment that the people of Georgia will not be able to debate and discuss such a fundamental change in the way we will do business. We have attracted business here with tax credits. One of the things, in addition to affordable housing, that's the only thing that we have. There are people losing their homes, there are people that are homeless, and there are people needing a place, affordable housing, a place to live, and that is one of the few tools that we have. We are talking about getting rid of these without the greatest tool that we have called democracy. The ability to hear the other side, disagree, and then vote it down. But we are not allowed to debate, and I'm real disappointed in this.
Senator, you're allowed to come to the well and state your opinion and accept questions from this body. So we can debate it as long as you'd like to debate it, Senator. So just come on down to the well.
Mr. President, And I say it is a great honor to even be able to come to this well to make a statement. But when we cannot amend a bill that comes before us and fundamentally change the way we do business here in Georgia, I dare say we are not able to go to the issue of making this state one of the greatest places to do business and not amend this bill. When we cannot amend to address affordable housing, as the distinguished gentleman from the 26th stated, using one of the tools to have housing here, affordable housing, I dare say we are going a step backwards on this election year. If we cannot address the tax on films, there's a reason we see Made in Georgia here. There's a reason Tyler Perry is here. There's a reason that Georgia is now the new Hollywood. If we lose that, we lose a tax base. We lose billions of dollars that are flowing into this place. And many of us who took part in passing that did not understand the ramifications. But if you go to the movies right now, you will see Made in Georgia. And all that goes away because, and we won't have an opportunity to address that. I just think that not just rural hospitals, not just credit for veterans, not just research headquarters, not just port activity tax credit, foster care tax credit, there are so many that we won't have an opportunity to make provision for if we engross this bill. Thank you so much.
You do have questions, Senator.
I'm sure, and the distinguished gentleman from the 19th, I do yield.
I recognize the senator from the 19th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, you yield?
I do yield, sir.
I want to make sure I understand your problem with Senate Bill 476 and why you don't want it to be engrossed. You have a problem because it addresses film tax credits?
I have a problem because I won't be able to amend this bill. That's the problem I have. And in my amendment, I won't be able to debate it. That's the problem I have.
So you want to keep the film tax credits?
Sir, the way I understand 476, which I don't have it with me, but
he gave me his reason why he wanted to be engrossed. This is fun. Senator, I thought that you said the reason you didn't want it to be engrossed is because you wanted to protect the film tax credit. If someone were to show you that the film tax credit is not addressed in Senate Bill 476, would it change your opinion on engrossment?
Well, I may want to protect the film by doing an amendment, and unfortunately, I'm not on your distinguished committee to have the type of input. I'm just one of 56, but I must stand and not allow this to go unchallenged.
Will Senator yield for a final question?
Yes, sir.
Senator, I just wanted to say, I thought you said that the reason you wanted to avoid engrossment is so you could protect the film tax credit. So I wanted to make sure you knew that it's not addressed in Senate Bill 476, it's not reduced, and then give you opportunity to consider whether or not that changes your mind.
There's a fundamental problem with engrossment when we can't do amendments, but I respect that, and I respect the senator from the 19th because you've done great work. It's just that some of us are not a part of that committee, and there are ramifications that are unforeseen, and when we cannot do amendments, it is a fundamental affront to democracy. Thank you very kindly.
Thank you for your kind comments on my hard work.
Senators yielded. Recognize the majority leader.
All right, y'all. And to my dear friend from Savannah, we're debating engrossment, and we got folks coming down here who want to be a little bit disingenuous because we did have a special committee on eliminating the income tax that's been going on since like the early fall. And last time I checked, minority caucus members were on that committee and had every opportunity to raise the issue, say the things you don't like, which I think there was a little bit of that. but this has been going on for months and months and months and months. So to come down here and say you didn't have a chance to read it, look at it, think about it, or anything else is totally just not true. So I ask the Senate to go ahead and vote green on engrossment, and let's get on with the debate. I'm sure we're going to be here till dinner time at the rate we're going. And we can both sides are going to get an opportunity to really demonstrate who stands with the people of Georgia. So let's put it up on the board and get it done. Thank you, Mr. President.
So would you like to speak against engrossment, Senator, or would you like to speak just against the bill in general? Senator, Leader, Senator from the 41st, y'all come here real quick. Could you? All right, so the motion was on engrossment for Senate Bill 476 and 477. There's objection. We've already had debate over it, and I know we want to continue to debate these, but we're going to go ahead and debate them after we do a vote on whether to engross or not. So all those in favor of engrossment will vote yay. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the motion to engross, the yeas are 31, the nays are 21, and the motion has prevailed. Moving on to the rules calendar. Senate Bill 476. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 476 by Senators Tillery of the 19th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 33 and Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to insurance and revenue and taxation respectively so as to reduce the personal income tax rate, to provide for later matters, to provide for an effective date and applicability, to provide a short title, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Finance recommends that this bill do pass. Senator Huffstetler of the 52nd, Chairman. Mr. President, a minority report has been attached. The minority... That completes the order.
Recognize Senator from the 19th.
I think my mic's not live yet, so we're ready on it. Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, I rise to present to you first Senate Bill 476. Let's talk about how we got here. The people outside this building, and inside it now too, said that affordability is the word of the session. You've heard that from the House. You've heard that from the majority caucus. You've heard it from the minority caucus. And why is that so? Well, folks in the middle class, they feel like they're being squeezed out. They're watching the cost of their power bills increase 6 times in the past 2 years. They're watching the cost of groceries explode. They've seen rent increase. They've seen gas prices rise. And they're trying to figure out how they make ends meet. The only thing that's not rising as fast as their costs is their wages. And as a government, we now sit here and hear people literally screaming for leadership to address the needs they need most, and that's affordability. The Senate heard that cry, and this summer appointed a study committee to look at how we best could address those costs. See, the state doesn't collect a property tax. The biggest portion of people's income that the state takes is through our income tax. So what way could we best send money back to the folks who sent it to us in the first place? Well, that's by adjusting our income tax rate. And here in Georgia for years now, we've done that. We had a state income tax rate of 6%. We dropped it to 5.75, 5.49, 5.39. We now sit at 5.19%. And there's a proposal before you from the governor's office that sits on 476 as well to drop that state income tax rate another 40 basis points to 4.99%. But what does that do to the average Georgia family? In order to understand that, we first have to understand who the average Georgia family is. The average Georgia worker makes $47,000 a year. The average Georgia family makes $71,000 a year. If we're going to take and give them a 40 basis point reduction, well, that only ends up being for that average worker calling making $50,000 a year, about $100. If there's 24 pay periods in a year, then that means we're giving them roughly the cost of a cup of coffee if all we do is drop Georgia's income tax rate another 20 basis points. So the Senate started studying this in the off session and said, we've got to be able to do better. Allowing someone making $50,000 enough savings that they can buy a cup of coffee every other week simply is not enough if the real issue we're trying to address is affordability. So we started studying this further and said, well, maybe instead we should drop the income tax rate, instead of 20 basis points, an entire percent. What would that do for that family? Well, it turns out that would give them about $200 a year. That would give them about $20 maybe per pay period. It's better than we were, but it's still barely enough to buy fast food for them and their child at current market rates. Addressing the issue of affordability is more than putting a cup of coffee in somebody's hand every 2 weeks. It's more than allowing them to go buy a number one at McDonald's and maybe a number one for their child as well. We think the people of Georgia demand something more. To drop that income tax rate 1% from 4.99 to 3.99 would cost the state of Georgia, revenue-wise, about $3 billion. So the Senate Study Committee that had Republicans and Democrats on it voted favorably to propose something different. They said, hey, if we're going to take and walk the state income tax rate down from 5% to 4.99 to wherever we go from there, I've described it like a Subway sandwich. We're eating that Subway sandwich from one side. What if we instead turned and went to the other side of that Subway sandwich and started eating the sandwich from the other side by increasing the standard deduction? What would that mean for Georgians instead at that same $3 billion per fiscal year level? And the answer was quite astounding, actually. For $3 billion in a fiscal year, instead of just giving somebody $4 per pay period, we could actually exempt the first $50,000 of wages for every Georgia taxpayer. That means if they were married filing jointly, you could exempt the first $100,000 for every Georgia taxpayer. And some folks who don't deal in tax policy like we do every day go, well, what does an exemption of my first $50,000 or $100,000 mean? Well, here's what it means. If you're making $1 million, well, you'd only pay taxes on $900,000 if you're a married family filing jointly. If you're making $500,000, you'd only pay taxes on $400,000 if you're married and filing jointly. But if you're a firefighter in DeKalb County and you're making $70,000 and maybe you're married to a retail clerk who's making $30,000, well, your income tax would be completely eliminated under the plan introduced by Senate Bill 476. Senate Bill 476, by coming from the other side of the Subway sandwich and exempting the first $50,000 for an individual, the first $100,000 for a couple, well, that allows us in year one to eliminate the state income tax on 2/3 of Georgians, 64%. It allows us to give a substantial increase in savings to those families making more than $100,000, about $5,000. It's real money in real people's pockets, not token money that we've told them will help them later. Senate Bill 476 is tailored to address the affordability crisis for the middle class, and it's why I'm really proud to support it. $5,000 may not sound like a ton to $1 million. But let's talk about what it means to that average Georgia family I described to you earlier, the one making $47,000 or the family of four that makes on average $71,000. $5,000, well, that's the cost of child care for 3 months. It's the cost of rent for 3 to 6 months. It's the cost of groceries for 6 months. It's the cost of their power bill and their gas in their car combined for an entire year. And if you look at Google, you'll also find out that $5,000 is 2 times the average homestead property tax that's paid in this state. And I know that's disparate, it varies across the area, but it's 2 times that amount. Senate Bill 476 is real relief for middle-class families, and it's real relief for everyday Georgians. When we return that money to taxpayers, there needs to be some offset. So the study committee looked really hard at where should we offset those revenue costs. And one thing we found out is that Georgia gives out roughly $30 billion in special interest corporate credits each year. We publish those in something called a tax expenditure report. I brought a copy of it here for you today. The 2027 report was just published. When you heard me talk before, you heard me reference the 2026 report. We actually had to expand it by 5 pages. It's now 210 pages that goes through credit line by line, credit by credit, exemption by exemption, allowed to interests of the state, simply because many times they could afford a lobbyist. The Senate's proposal pays for that $3 billion each fiscal year by reducing some of these credits. If we wanted to do away with the income tax completely, there's a very easy way to do it. The state income tax brings in $16.2 billion. These credits total over 30. You want to do away with the state income tax? All you have to do is tear these in half. But the Senate's proposal didn't even go that aggressively at tax credits. It simply said all we need to do is reduce these by 10%. And by reducing these by 10%, we can eliminate the income tax on individuals making less than $50,000 and eliminate the income tax on families making less than $100,000. That's how we balance. And it works. There's 29 credits that we cut, or exemptions that we cut in this bill. And I want to read a couple of them to you so that you understand what we're talking about. You heard the senator from the 26th, and I believe the senator from the 55th address the low-income housing credit. We didn't eliminate that credit. You see, in Georgia, we had the most generous in the state, in the nation. We allowed you to take a double credit over the federal credit that was already allowed. Senate Bill 476 just calms that back to half of the federal credit, which is in line with what many other states were already doing. We also eliminate the Garja tax credit, something that this body and the House across the way defunded several years ago already, but there's still auxiliary revenue that's left that we can claim then. We eliminated many of the insurance credits that many of the credits rather that insurance companies are able to receive. We said, hey, if you're getting a deduction because you're having to pay another tax, why should you be able to offset that on your state revenue? That totals about $500 million that we're able to pack back in and reduce the income tax for everyday Georgians. There was a savings that banks receive for a tax that they pay on depository institutions fees. We combed that back. It saves about $55 million, and instead use that savings to apply it to middle-class Georgia families. There were many credits that we started during COVID to allow for the creation of PPE, personal protective equipment, and ventilators. We added a $1,250 credit on top of the jobs tax credit, which was already very generous. We combed back that $1,250 extra credit and applied those savings instead to middle-class Georgia families. There was a credit for the making of cigarettes for export. Yes, there was a credit for that. We pulled that credit back. We instead took the savings from that credit and applied it to reducing the income tax for families making less than $100,000. There was a credit for crab bait, if you bought crab bait because you were crabbing. That's not a bad thing, right? We want people to crab bait fish. But should they not have to pay sales tax on that crab bait? Does that help a family in Cobb County, Fulton County, DeKalb County pay for gas, groceries, or child care tonight? It doesn't. And then we start getting down to some of the larger ones. And these are tax credits, actually, and sales tax exemptions that I believe the minority party has already signed legislation agreeing should end. Those relate to data centers. Several years ago, the data center tax credit totaled about $37 million. And it's technically a sales tax exemption. The way it works is if you go to buy a laptop for your child to go to Georgia State or Georgia Southern this afternoon, you have to pay sales tax on that computer. But if somebody were to go tonight and buy $15 million worth of computers because they're building a data center, well, they pay no sales tax at all. That exemption by itself that used to total $37 million, well, I've told you, and Senator from the 52nd's told you, it's about $700 million now. Turns out we lied to you. We were wrong. The total of those credits that are found at 48, OCGA 48-3, or -8-3, 68, and 68.1 now total over $1.5 billion. So ask yourself, why should that firefighter, that teacher, that nurse have to pay sales tax on the laptop they're buying for their child to go to school, but someone who's got a market cap of billions not have to pay sales tax to place a data center in your community? We went after a few other credits as well. As you know, in Georgia a few years ago, we passed a sales tax exemption. If you were buying yacht parts in Georgia, that you shouldn't have to pay sales tax. It was to start an industry to get things going, and that industry has now got up and gotten going. It doesn't make sense now for us to leave that exemption, especially at the expense of families who are having a hard time trying to pay for those gas, groceries, and child care I mentioned earlier. We strike that for elimination. We also strike for elimination the sales tax exemption that energy providers are able to claim when they're buying natural gas in the production of their electricity. That totals another about roughly $58 million. If you were to go down the entire list of the 29 credits and sales tax exemptions that you see in Senate Bill 476, you'd find out that they total right at $2.8 billion in savings. The cost of exempting the state income tax or eliminating the state income tax on individuals making $50,000 or less and families making $100,000 and less, while still providing a $5,000 tax savings to those making over $100,000, well, the cost of that is right at $2.9 billion. The bill balances, but it balances with a caveat. I told you that we do accept the governor's 20 basis point reduction from 5.19% down to 4.99%. The cost of that's roughly $1.3 billion, $1.2 billion. We did not factor his cost into our bill because we know when the governor introduces a bill like that, he bakes that cost into his revenue estimate. But you pull his cost off, that 1.3, and all we did is put people over corporations and made the bill balance. The savings here for families is real. As I told you, it pays for 3 months of child care. It pays for 3 to 6 months of rent. It pays twice their average property tax bill. And it does it by paying for itself. What we did not do in this bill is something that I've heard many of you take the well lately and say that we did, that we were going to raise the tax on groceries. We didn't. That we were going to raise the sales tax. We didn't. That we were going to create a property tax. Senate Bill 476 doesn't do that. It takes corporate welfare credits, combs them back by just 10%, and applies that savings to Georgia families who are really making up the middle class. There's some other critiques we've heard as well. The Wall Street Journal said that this bill's bad because it helps the middle class too much. Well, throw me in that briar patch. We've heard another critique from members of this chamber who say it benefits the rich. Well, my question to you then is, tell me where you're drawing the line for that rich. We're drawing the line for the families we're helping at from $50,000 to $125,000. Those are the folks who feel the max benefit in this. Those are the folks who see their state income tax liability eliminated. In a time where we feel that the people are begging for leadership on affordability, Senate Bill 476 addresses this head on. And it presents the members of this body quite the dichotomy. Are we going to vote to allow corporate welfare and corporate subsidies to continue at the expense of families who are trying to pay for gas, groceries, and child care? Or are we going to comb back those credits by just 10% and eliminate that tax burden on those hardworking families while providing incredible, direct state income tax savings to the other third who don't see their income tax eliminated? The choice is real, and it's stark. And Senate Bill 476 provides direct and actual relief for Georgia families. You're going to get an opportunity in a moment to decide which side of this line you wish to be on. And for me, I've already decided. My vote's going to be cast with the middle class. For those who are trying to pay for gas, groceries, and childcare, for those who wake up every morning and literally put Georgia to work, I want to help them. And if that means I have to comb back a tax credit on a company worth billions, that's where I want to be. And I hope you'll follow me there too. In the end, I know there'll be much comment on this bill, and Mr. President, I'll be happy to take whatever questions there may be. But I hope you realize the stark choice that's before you. Do people matter over companies? Are groceries more important than shareholder dividends? Is making sure Georgia's affordable for every family more important than making sure we land the next billion-dollar deal? And I purport to you that it is. Thank you for allowing me to chair the special committee to eliminate Georgia's income tax. Thank you for allowing me to serve in this body with you now for 10 years. But this vote will be one of the most important that we ever take. And it will decide which direction this chamber takes for the 10 years that follow. Thank you so much, Mr. President, and I'm happy to yield for questions.
You have no questions, Senator?
Thank you so much for your time. I urge your favorable consideration of Senate Bill 476.
The senator has yielded. Senator from the 41st, got several people on your team looking to speak here. What purpose do you rise?
A point of order. Pursuant to Rule 3-1.4, that requires a fiscal note for any bill that the Senate considers pertaining to that could have a grave impact or significant impact on our budget. A fiscal note was required. I do not see a fiscal note included in any of these bills, and so I'm asking for a ruling from the chair as to whether or not we can actually debate this bill.
Repeat that code section again, please.
It's 3-1.4 regarding fiscal notes.
All right, thank you. Senator, your point of order is duly noted, but I think you heard a long explanation from the appropriations chair of this body for over 6 years now, who had a study committee over the summer where we had a bipartisan study group, and they looked at this pretty carefully, and he was pretty clear about where he's getting his numbers from. So I think we'll continue the debate, though. Thank you, though. Recognize the senator from the 9th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I rise today in opposition of this bill, which we should rename Cut Taxes for the Wealthy and Rise Costs for Everyone Else Act, because that's what this bill is. And Georgia families deserve the truth to be spoken as plainly as possible about this bill, that
This is a middle-class tax hike. I'm going to say this without any spin. There's no slogans, and you're going to hear some that are trying to sell this tax scam bill on you. That this is a middle-class tax hike. And for more than 2 decades, the majority, Senate Republicans, are finally admitting what Georgians have been living with every single day: an affordability crisis that has developed on their watch. But instead of delivering a real solution and real relief, this scam bill creates a massive hole in our state budget. It's going to be a hole so deep that it will swallow the services that families, everyday families, rely on. And they're going to raise costs in a way that families are going to continue to struggle. And it's going to take a bit of time for it to play out, but this is what will be the consequences of this income tax bill if it passes. And the bill tells us exactly how that hole is going to be created. If you look at lines 38 through 40, it locks in a 4.99% income tax rate with no guardrails. So what does that mean? It permanently removes the revenue-based triggers that protect Georgia during downturns, and we do have downturns. It forces the tax cut even if the economy weakens or our revenues fall in the state. It guarantees a budget shortfall that the state cannot pause or reverse. It's going to eliminate the financial safeguards that once ensured tax cuts only happen when Georgia can afford to have them. And let's be clear, if this plan could withstand public scrutiny, it would not have been rushed through committee without real debate, without a fiscal note, or any bipartisan input. Not once has someone on my side of the aisle where they consulted truly about this bill. And we could have had time to craft a bill if we had some bipartisan debate and some bipartisan discussion to really craft a bill that actually responds to affordability. And when you move this fast, what y'all should be asking yourself, why is it moving so fast? Why was this bill rushed through? What don't you want the public to see? We're told not to worry that, the eliminating the tax credit will magically pay for a $9 billion hole that will be the result of this income tax bill. And imagine, I'm going to give you imagine just going to what you've been told now. Imagine you're going to the store and a salesman tells you, you don't need to see the price of those goods, but trust me, it's going to save you money. And then you get to the register and find out you can't afford that item. And understand another critical point about this bill, that when you remove money, because over half of our state income tax revenue collected from taxpayers pays for many of our state services that we need. There was some talk about eliminating some credits that might be less consequential, but some of those credits are actually very important and we need them. So when you remove money collected from taxes that pay for essential services that Georgia families need, that revenue disappears. But the costs accumulated don't vanish. The cost is still there. Things we have to pay for and buy are still there. It just shifts. It doesn't vanish. It just shifts. And it's always the middle class and working families and seniors on fixed incomes who are asked to carry the burden through higher costs, reduced services, or even both. But let's talk about what this bill does do. This bill wipes out nearly every tax credit that keeps Georgia's economy running. Affordable housing credits, gutted. Rural hospital credits, gutted. Child care credits, gone. Veterans and law enforcement credits, gone. Port activity credits, gone. Research and innovation credits, gone. And support for rural hospitals at a time when we're in a healthcare crisis. Support for rural hospitals and doctors, gone. For 23 years, we've watched policies that prioritize the wealthy while hardworking Georgians continue to fall behind. And now, after decades of ignoring an affordability crisis, we're told that this bill is the solution. I am here to tell you it is most definitely not. And this is the truth in one sentence, or a few sentences. This bill cuts taxes for the wealthy, blows a hole in our budget, forces higher sales taxes, kills jobs, worsens the housing crisis that we have now, and rises the cost of living for middle-class families, seniors, and small businesses. This is what this bill does if it passes today. And Republicans are going to keep claiming that these sales taxes won't increase because of this bill. And that sounds comforting. It's a lie. But when you remove almost $9 billion from a budget and you're only talking about recovering half of it, the math doesn't care about politics. The math is not adding up. Where are we going to fill the gap? Still can't get a clear answer on where we're filling the gap to pay for essential services that we need here in Georgia. And in every state that has tried to pass this income tax or eliminate the income tax, they have had higher sales taxes on groceries. They've tried to fill a gap through higher sales tax on groceries. So other states have tried to eliminate that, so they had to raise taxes somewhere else. It was higher sales tax on groceries at a time where groceries are extremely expensive. We're feeling the pinch. It was a higher taxes on school supplies. So now we're going to burden our families, just trying to send their kids to school. Higher taxes on prescription drugs at a time when our elderly already cannot afford the rising cost of prescription drugs. And rising costs and rising the taxes on just everyday essentials. That's how Republicans are proposing we're going to fill the gap. So let's be honest with the people that we serve here today. This bill is not about affordability, it's about austerity. It's not about a relief, it's a risk. It doesn't even have a fiscal note. $9 billion and no fiscal note. That would dramatically change the economy in the state of Georgia. We passed a bill, that bill ran through in 24 hours, a bill that will fundamentally change the economy in the state of Georgia. And I would say it will devastate our economy. It's not a plan for working families. It's a plan working families will pay for. Republicans can't continue to claim that they're fighting for working families while advancing policies that working families pay for. I'm asking you all to vote no on this bill. It would be nice if we could pull it from the floor right now and actually come to the table and have a real discussion and put forth a real bipartisan plan that actually responds to Georgians and will save them money. But this bill isn't it. And with that, Mr. President, I yield the will.
Senator is yielded. Bring it down to the Senator from the second.
Thank you, Mr. President. to my good friend, the senator from the 19th. I wish he would have came not with that binder clip of the tax credits, but he would have came with a binder clip with that fiscal note. That would have helped me really understand the math on what we're doing. I'm a public school graduate, and I want to make sure that I can do the math right, because what we're talking about is about billions with a B. So I want to make sure that somebody a little smarter than me can give me a report to tell me the exact intended consequence or unintended consequence or the lack thereof of what this will do for this state. Now, I've got serious concerns about Senate Bill 476. And if I could listen to my grandmother this morning, she would tell me I was born at night, not last night. So I want to be clear about this. I believe everybody in this chamber wants Georgians to keep more of their hard-earned money, but that is not the debate. That's not the debate about Georgians keeping their hard-earned money. Instead of raising the wages so people have more money, we said we'll just cut taxes so that you can hopefully get some more money. But see, I did some quick math, and I realized that the largest gains would be to those higher earners because they get to exempt more. But if you are an average Georgia citizen, Rob and Peter to pay Paul, and hope John don't ask for his money back, how that's going to work for you? So then I thought about, well, maybe businesses, maybe they'll see the impact. Then I thought about small businesses and how this would affect them. And then I thought about the ramifications of what could or could not happen. And then I just went back to last week. Didn't have to go far, just last week. Last biennium, we came with some property tax measures that we negotiated that was a 2/3 vote. And I've been in this chamber, this is my 6th session, and we came back and we made a revision to that 2/3 vote, and we did it by general law. So then I said, well, if we're going to make these reductions, somebody's going to have to come up with a little more money. Then I thought, well, we got to come up with some more money. I could argue where the money would come from if I had the fiscal note, because then I could see exactly what the impact would or would not be if I had it. But since I don't have it, I'll just have to speculate, because if you make the cut here, there's only 2 ways to raise revenue. You either raise taxes or you find new revenue. You raise revenue. Well, compared to those other states that were referenced, their sales tax is a little bit higher. Well, then I thought about my good friend that owns a restaurant, and I was sitting down with him talking at his restaurant, and I came to understand that he had to pay sales tax for the next year on money he hadn't earned yet to the state. He had to prepay sales tax to the state in the next fiscal year. So that money is sitting in the Department of Revenue, and that's how we can make these revenue projections. So then I thought, well, if we have to raise the sales tax to pay for it, how are those small businesses going to get the money? Because we project for them what the future earnings will be. And they come up with that money out of their own pockets before the fiscal year ever shows up and before they ever collect the sales tax in their business. So now I wonder, what about those folks? Because sales tax affects everybody. So now the question becomes, does this bill cut taxes responsibly, or whether it will create a structural hole in Georgia's budget that future legislatures will be forced to fill? Now, colleagues, I am not running for a statewide office. I intend to come back to the 2nd if the folks in the 2nd hope that I come back. But there are many in this room who are going to be running on a statewide ticket, and on both sides of the aisle, they won't have to answer this question of what do we do next, because they won't be here in the next. You and I, colleagues, will be the next. So now many of them will be gone, but some of us will still be here to pick up the pieces of what's left of this bill. And you can't blame somebody that's no longer in the chamber, because folks are going to want to know, well, what did you do then? You can't say, well, this is what they did back then, because they're going to say, well, what are you going to do right now? Right now, personal income tax brings in about $16 billion a year. That's nearly almost half of our general fund. So this absolutely makes a change that's very dramatic in this system. Now I want to know, why can we not do something about paying folks a livable wage? Instead of worrying about how we're going to cut taxes, why can't we make sure that folks actually make a wage that's decent and honorable for the work that they do? So we're saying that taxes are the problem, but I would assure you taxes wouldn't be the problem if folks had a little more money. But when you don't have enough, you're already trying to figure out how to make it enough, how to make it work. And so if we're going to lower and cut the income tax rate, it sounds good. And for the families who are already at the bottom of the tier, they may not see the largest gains. But I did the math. They may save about $1,200, be about $100 a month. And at the same time, you cut the low-income housing tax credit. You make it the affordable housing tax credit, but ain't nothing affordable about it. Because if you give me an extra $100 and you cut the credit and you decrease production of the amount of units available in this state, then where are they going to take that $100 when people, when you want to go rent an apartment, want you to have 3 times the salary? Well, where are they going to get 3 times the salary? And we hope and believe that corporations do the right thing if you cut those taxes for them too, right? We've heard that before. We've heard trickle-down economics, and I'm going to tell you, my family's been waiting on trickle-down economics, and we ain't seen nothing trickle down yet. So what does it also mean? Independent estimates said this could reduce the state revenue from anywhere from $3 billion to $9 billion every single year, even after accounting for the sales tax changes in this bill. Let me repeat that, $9 billion. We'll cut the affordable housing tax credit, give folks a little bit, and when they get to the grocery store, they'll realize the little bit they got still ain't enough. Housing production, when we talk about that affordable housing tax credit in this state, we're not like other states because we have a gratuities clause. The gratuities clause says that you can't put money in the budget for a direct entity in the budget. So guess what? We can't be like Florida and provide loans on top of their 9%. The reason the state of Georgia matches dollar for dollar to the 9% affordable housing tax credit is because we get to punch above our weight and compete with states like Texas and Florida. And I know some will come to this well and argue, but we're making those developers so rich. Well, if that was the case, we'd have affordable housing all up and down the street. Problem is, you don't make that much money in affordable housing. And there are very few that do it, because if it was so profitable, everybody would be doing it. But that has no comparison to market rate. So we'll cut the affordable housing tax credit. I have learned, colleagues, that folks are good at doing one thing and saying another. We'll give you $1 and take 20 right back and smile and say, didn't we help you today? But last year, I thought about some other votes that we took inside of this body. If we wanted to be serious about affordability and helping folks to get ahead, we absolutely wouldn't just stick it to them. We would work to raise the state minimum wage. We're $5.15. Federal standard is $7.25 an hour. And then some will say, but nobody pays that. But people base their computations of how much to pay based off what the lowest available minimum wage is, if we wanted to do something about it. But $9 billion in our budget at risk. And you want me to believe that this is going to be the best solution to come up with that. But when it falls short, we're going to raise them sales taxes. So we're talking about, how do we offset this? Most of these credits will be eliminated in 2032, and some, you know what, I'll be honest with you, I agree we absolutely should eliminate them. But I tell you what, that affordable housing tax credit is not something we should eliminate, because folks are already telling us they cannot afford rent right now. Maybe in some of our rural parts, folks may be able to afford rent, but I'm going to tell you, in Savannah, the rent is sky high. Child care, sky high. How did we figure that folks wanted us to cut the income tax first when folks are telling us, look, we'd go back into the workforce and we could just afford child care? We would absolutely do all of these things if we had some housing that was attainable, some housing that was affordable. You got folks that say we can't even afford to buy a house. Why? Because when the banks go to lend the money, they want to know how much salary do you have. They don't care about if you pay taxes, if you don't pay taxes. They want to know, what is your gross annual income? We ought to be figuring out how to give folks a larger gross with increasing the wages in this state, not stagnating and saying we're going to benefit the most top tier folks. So over the next several years, we'll absorb these cuts if you vote for it. And if you'll still be in the chamber with me, and Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, I make it back and you make it back and we're still here, maybe we'll get together and hold hands and say, what happened here on this day when you voted this out? So what do we cut? Do we cut education? Do we cut health care? Do we slow down transportation projects? Do we shift more costs on local government? Because we know we can give school systems unfunded mandates. But I just want to be honest. When income taxes go down this much, something else always go up. So if we cut affordable housing, starting in 2027, at a time where rents are rising and working families are already stretched thin, robbing Peter to pay Paul, and now we're going to take one of the only tools we have available to increase housing supply, we're going to cut that. This affects teachers, seniors, first responders, and families that want to stay in their communities. Because if you know some folks who are senior citizens, they'll tell you they live on what? A fixed income, meaning the money is set, it's fixed. I only got what I got, and I got to work with what I got, and that's it. There's no magical bailout for folks that are senior citizens. So this bill doesn't just cut taxes, it impacts folks for generations to come. It restructures the entire revenue system, and it would lock in permanent losses. It removes future flexibility, and it shifts the risk onto the very services that our constituents rely on. Tax relief has to be balanced, it has to be sustainable, but it should not be a mortgage payment on Georgia's future where the note may come due and we bankrupt the state. For those reasons, Mr. President, I cannot vote for SB 476 in its current form because I'm not willing to vote for bankruptcy. Because maybe some folks in this room got monopoly money, but the folks I know are rubbing a few nickels together trying to make ends meet. And with that, Mr. President, my folks are robbing Peter to pay Paul and hope John don't ask for his money back. But it seems that in this bill, we don't know who to ask for the money back because we're going to be paying everybody. And with that, I yield the well.
Senator has yielded. It's clear he made it clear, though, he didn't want to vote for this tax cut. So we've got a number of speakers here lined up, which is fine. But I do know the pro tem is got lunch that is be coming here in a little bit. We can continue on debate if everybody would rather do that, and then when it does get here, we'll break. And if we have time to vote on this bill, we will. If we don't, we'll just break for a little bit and come back. Does that sound all right to y'all? All right. Well, good, because that's what we're going to do anyway. So, all right. Recognize the senator from the 42nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't recognize the bill that my friend from the 2nd just spoke on, but I rise today in support of Senate Bill 476. Today we get a chance to show why we ran for office. Today we'll get to show who we came to this Gold Dome to fight for. I think I can say safely that nobody in this room has had more contested elections in the last 13 years than me. Sometimes when you aren't really challenged, you may forget who you answer to and who really brought you to this party. When I look back at the mailers that I've run over the years and all the social media posts I've had over this past decade, I look and I see that I promise election after election to fight for Georgia families first. And these Georgia families aren't always able to make the trip up to the Capitol. They can't always hire lobbyists. They aren't always at your local political party breakfast. And instead of spending their evenings debating whether they're going to summer in the Highlands or in Sea Island, they worry about whether or not they can find enough camps for their kids to go to in the summer so they can keep working their jobs. Instead of spending their evenings in dark, fancy steakhouses in Buckhead, they sit down when their kids are asleep at night and start crunching numbers and ask themselves, does it still make sense for me to even keep working with the rising costs of childcare? So while these working families aren't always out here in the halls, if you take the time to listen, their voices are shouting at us from every corner of this state. And today we have a chance to do what we all promised to do, and we beg for their votes. Today we can put working families first. And this isn't about us versus them. I believe that being the #1 state in the country for business also means being the #1 state in the country for families. This bill does not toss out the great work over the past 2 decades of getting Georgia to the place where people and businesses around the country flock here. This bill simply says if we're going to use our tax policies to incentivize economic growth, we'll make certain that every incentive we provide puts Georgia families first. Our working families need help now. And today you can join me in showing our working families that we hear you. I've heard it said that we're picking winners and losers today. I think that's actually right. There's a clear loser in this bill. And if you listen to some of these speeches, you realize quickly who the real loser is. Because the loser in this bill is the state senator. It's the politician. If you vote for this bill, what you're saying is that the people that sent you here know better how to spend their money than you do. Today you have a chance to put the politician second and the person that voted for the politician first. And I hope you'll join me today in supporting Senate Bill 476 and sending a strong message from this state Senate about who you came here to fight for. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. We're going to have a senator from the 38th. Senator from 38th. All right, we'll go to the next one. Senator from 52nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to address this from a little bit different perspective and talk about some of these tax credits. And let me tell you, I'm not against big business at all. We've certainly brought them into my district. SK Batteries, the 3rd largest investment in Georgia. Q-Cells Solar, the largest square footage of solar cell manufacturer in the Western Hemisphere. Data centers, which we want, and others. But they also pay their way up there. They pay their full way, and they still come. We take great care of them when they come. And the result of that is things such as Cartersville now has said they're okay with us raising their homestead exemption from $2,800 to $100,000. We're doing it the right way. We also want to make sure we don't take away credits that are going to hurt people, and that's why we started in the Senate in 2022 starting to study these. We can get push studies from different groups that tell us how it's going to be great and going to create 1 billion jobs, and those jobs are going to create jobs, and we try to send it out independently. We don't pick the people that do it. We stay out of it. We let the Department of Audits do that. And so these things in here have been studied. The data center study was done this year. I had ordered it in April, and I think a lot of people have seen that and used it. The high-tech computer equipment had previously been done, manufacturer tax credit, bank tax credit. Those are all online. You can look at them. Insurance premiums, computer equipment, I might have mentioned. You know, the data center credit and the high-tech computer equipment together, make sure you understand how much they take away from the revenue of the state of Georgia. Every one of us pays state income taxes. All our income taxes have to be paid until February 3rd of this year just to pay for those. Over a month, over 1/12 of it, just for that credit. The low-income housing credit's been talked about. We did a study on that. We had matched 100 to 100%. Some states don't match it at all. Some match it 100 to 50%. The study is right there independently that says we weren't building any more housing units by doing that. They were maximizing the use of these federal credits either way. The federal credits are a finite amount of money. They're using them either way. And our going from 50 to 100% didn't create any more housing. Housing's an issue, but this isn't the way to do it anymore. So it was just surprising to hear from somebody that this was a tax hike. There's no new taxes in this. People say, well, maybe you will increase sales tax someday. These other states increase sales taxes. Well, I don't know if those states did or not. They probably did, but we're not those states. We're Georgia. And the way we're doing it is we're taking away money that's been taken away from this middle class and given out as credits to people that were going to build things anyway, according to the studies. We're putting that money back in the middle class pockets. $5,000 a family is going back in their pockets. You know, there's nothing, and I've ordered a fiscal study. I've had it ordered. It's complicated. I'm sure we'll have it all before a final vote. This is going to go over to the House. It's going to come back. But there's nothing we're even putting in there for the fact that what does $5,000 in everybody's pocket do to the economy of Georgia? You all know it's going to stimulate the economy of Georgia when that happens. We would rather have it in their pockets than others. I think this is a responsible measure. We started some years ago, we raised the standard deduction from $3,000 to $6,000. We doubled it. We raised it from $6,000 to $24,000. We quadrupled it. Now going from $24,000 to $100,000, we're quadrupling it again. We're trying to give the money to the people who need it the most in this state, and that's the working poor and the middle class, trying to lower their tax burden and put money in their pockets. I saw something in a report about Art Laffer, how that was a failure in the report that was put on our desk. You know, I'm an old guy. I was around in the 80s when Reagan did his cuts. It wasn't a failure. The revenue coming into the federal government doubled in that decade. The problem is Congress on both sides of the aisle raised spending way more than that. That's the only problem, was that spending was out of control, and not that the revenue was a problem. The revenue doubled from 1980 to 1990. I wasn't around in 1880, sorry about that. Anyway, I think this is very responsible. This is done by a long game. The long game was starting these studies back in 2022, systematically going through them. And the long game was starting this summer and studying this issue. I feel like this is a very responsible plan. I think it is badly needed for the people of Georgia fighting higher energy costs, higher food costs, and I think it's going to be a great thing for Georgia. I certainly support it. I know it's going to be a great thing, and I hope the House will take this up when we send it to them. Thank you, Mr. President, and I'll yield to Will.
Thank you, Senator. I recognize the Senator from the 56.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of Senate Bill 476. A little over 10 years ago, I created a study committee, thanks to this Senate, to begin looking at our tax credits and incentives to see if each and every one had a return on investment, or ROI as we call it. And what we learned during that study committee is some did and most did not. We furthered that process by passing my Senate Bill 6 back many years ago that put in the code that we'd measure those tax credits on a rotating basis year over year. And why would we do that? Because we want to be fiscally responsible and conservative. And we have found many of those are losing money, which means we're putting in a state tax dollar and not nearly getting the money back for that. Well, what does that really mean? What it means is to every other individual and family and business, we're telling them you should pay more tax money to prop up somebody else's special interest. That is the definition of picking winners and losers. What we're doing today, thanks to the President's body and our Lieutenant Governor, the Senator from the 19th, is bringing that back to the individuals and families to give the money back to their pocket. Now, I realize for some of you, perhaps $5,000 a year back in your pocket, if your family makes $100,000, isn't much. But to the people in my district and to me, it means an awful lot. $5,000 a year when we are just getting through the worst inflation in 45 years, thanks to the prior administration in Washington, D.C. $5,000 a year is a huge answer to the affordability crisis that families are facing. This is a true kitchen table issue where that's the difference of paying my property taxes, being able to afford groceries, being able to take a family vacation, support your kids in sports, being on a fixed income as a senior citizen. If you can't connect the dots on this one, it is time to go back to school and redo math class. Now, I heard from some of my friends on the other side of the aisle come up and talk about this legislation. This is a pro tip from a guy that's been around for a while. It's important you actually read the bill and know what it's about prior to coming up here and talking about everything that was emphatically untrue. As I've said before, and I'll say again, you are entitled to your opinion, but you are not entitled to your own facts. We've had my friends on the left come up here and talk about all these cuts that are in the bill that actually aren't even so. In fact, they specifically were pointed out by the appropriations chairman. Why would you come up and literally tell a falsehood to the Senate and all the people listening? Understand the facts. Read the legislation. This is as middle-class tax cut as it possibly could get. So from a political perspective, I hope some people vote against this bill because they'll be the ones in the ballot box that will be reminded of that. I myself am proud to support this bill, proud to go back to my district and the people I represent and said during the toughest affordability crisis we have faced, after record high inflation from the prior administration, the people of Georgia acted. We put money back in your pocket, real and meaningful dollars, and we did it in a responsible way by cutting back tax credits that didn't provide a return on investment, and we did it in a fiscally responsible and smart way that supports the individuals and families first. I hope you'll join me today in this great piece of legislation. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Senators yielded. Okay, we're going to take a quick little lunch break here, and I appreciate we've got everybody still sitting in the queue, so when we come back, we'll pick right up wherever you are in the lineup here. But we're going to take about a 30-minute lunch break. I think they have lunch. The Pro Tem has provided lunch for everyone here. I do want to introduce a special guest we have today is Christopher Patterson here. He is with the administration. He is with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. He's here today to meet with our agencies to talk about defects, foster care system, and housing, and a lot of other things. So let's give him a warm welcome here for being a guest here today. We'll be, let's say we'll be back at 1 o'clock.